Hi, Julie. How are you?
I'm awesome, Justin. How are you?
I am black, bold, and blessed, and trying not to be stressed.
Oh, that sounds good to me. It's a, it's Friday, yay!
it is Friday, so I'm excited. For those of y'all who regular attend, welcome to another just in time conversation. Um, I met Julie via Twitter, so this is our first time talking and being in community and seeing each other's faces animated. Um, uh, and met you um, through the campaign for Cato and Cleo,
Yes,
uh,
sir. Yes, sir.
the two dogs who were impounded for quite some time in our town.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
and you know, I reached out to you and I was like, I would love to talk with you and 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 hear about the advocacy and work you do around animals. And I thought the most interesting thing you said, like, hey, great, but I want to tell you about, me doing modeling and changing careers and doing different things now. For me, I was just like, wow, this is great. So to catch two fish with one net and talk about a multitude of different things. Thank
Awesome.
you for responding and thank you for joining us. I guess if you could just share with us the advocacy you did in the past and how you got into that.
Sure, I'd love to. So, approximately, wow, time flies. 12 years ago, you may hear that barking, the dogs are inside, but 12 years ago, we adopted our dog, Rainy, from a local, not shelter. It was a private rescue nonprofit. They've been there for about 100 years, named Francis Vale, and the gal that we worked with there, when we finally picked Rainy up, she was leaving there to start her own shelter named Finding Shelter, which is foster based, which most are today. They're in a foster home to be adopted, and she said, "Hey, Julie, we're I'm starting my own shelter, and this is 12 years ago, so this is like, Facebook is just kind of getting going, really, at that time. That's hard to believe, and really shows you how time flies. But that was really how the rescue, foster, adopt, love, don't shop, that whole slogan really began. I knew nothing about it, Justin, at that time. Nothing. Like, you and we know a little bit now, so we just can't imagine somebody would buy a dog. But people buy dogs, and that's their prerogative. But it just kind of snowballed from there, I guess you could say. I followed a lot of the things Grace was doing with finding shelter, and then you're getting all these notices from Facebook on other groups, and before I knew it, I was full force into advocating for dogs. Now, let me preface that by saying most of what I was doing was from my computer. So, people are, oh, it's so great, all this and that. And, it is, we're all important. One friend said, we're all a cog on the wheel, which is true. We need this guy, we need this guy. My kids were little at the time. They're 18 and 14 now, but at the time they were little. So I couldn't just jump in my car and go rescue a dog, which I could do today. And, I've probably done that a time or two. But, so I fell into the rabbit hole, so to speak, of, it's not there's no ending to dog rescue. It's 24/7, to try to help these dogs. And I got into a predicament there where I really needed to focus on maybe one rescue or two rescues. I was trying to do everything that came across my page, and that was all encompassing. So from there, that just kind of evolved, and I felt the most I could do at that time was just sharing these dogs on Facebook, and that proved to be successful in a lot of cases. But it's an overwhelming community of the dog shelter situation. So now, over time, I've been able to maybe just hone that in a little bit, I guess, because you just, it's overwhelming. You just got to pick and choose a few people you can think you can help. And but speaking of Cato and Cleo, a Facebook friend from Connecticut sent me their story when I was on vacation that summer. It's been how many years ago, but that just, I think that was the first case of a doggy death row type case, which just really, it was brutal. It was brutal to listen to that and know about that, and that was a tough one. And I thank you for what you did to try to help there. It was, some people listen to this and they're probably thinking, there's so many more problems in the world besides, some dogs being locked up or some dogs in a shelter, and there's people and there's this and there's that, and I agree, there's a lot of problems, but this is special to me. Like, this is my love, and they can't speak for themselves. So I think there's a lot of advocacy for people and children, and a lot of these dogs just get dumped. And so there's a lot of things that I love and that I involve myself in to a small extent, but dogs has always been, since I learned about the shelter system, I really realized, wow, I really love dogs. Like, I was always a dog person and I'm an animal person, but through all of this, I'm like, I really love dogs. Like, a dog was looking at me on my way to the store today, and the parent didn't see, but this dog was looking at me and I'm saying hi. And I'm sure people think I'm crazy, but just seeing a dog wag his tail, it's just, they're so dear. They're so sweet, so innocent.
No, you know, I did not grow up with pets. I come from a big family, and apparently, when I was born, apparently we had parakeets, we had snakes, we had lizards, we had a cricket farm, gerbils, and then I was born, and apparently fish. I was born, and everything was gone. I was like,
Oh
what?
no, what
What?
happened?
I'm like, cool. Like, I get that I'm the youngest, but like all of that disappeared, and I think about, to expand on your thought, there are so many important issues, right? And something that excites me about this generation of advocates is that we are so intersectional. We think about things and how they connect to each other. Um, and sometimes the harm and cruelty that people do to animals, whether consciously or subconsciously by the way we design things, like even learning about puppy mills, right? And thinking about how it's just like, okay, this person is breeding an animal, what's wrong? And then you think about the damage on an animal's body to produce so many litters and for profit, and then and how that works. Like that exploitation, if we talked about it for people, that'd be unconscionable.
Right, right, yes.
But when we go outside of our species, all of a sudden we say, well, that's different. And then at the same token, there are times where there are some animals, there are some people's pets and dogs that live better than other people, right? There's,
Absolutely. Yes,
and
absolutely.
I think all that to say, being able to have that frame of mind. I was just talking with a friend of mine about the environment, and even something as simple as a honeybee and how they're being affected. Like a simple animal being a
Yep.
simple species being affected can affect everything else. And I think about when we talk about domesticated animals, I think there is something special about having a mutual relationship and trust, and especially teaching kids how to interact. When you're talking about rescue animals and dealing with trauma and understanding differences, where this dog you can touch its tail, that dog you can't. This dog had this trauma, that dog had that trauma. Um, as you learn how to be tender to these animals, you learn how to be tender to 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 people, right? And to
Agreed.
understand.
Agreed. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. It's interesting, Justin, you say that about the puppy mills. And I say Facebook friends because a lot of these people I've never met personally, but I've been following them for so long. I feel like I know them. I know their work. Um, one a fabulous rescue in our area, and they're big. They're very big. It's a adopt a boxer rescue. They go by AABR. Anyway, they pull a lot of these rescues pull from puppy mills in Pennsylvania, where I am. It's a problem. This is heartbreaking. Just a couple days ago, they I think this boxer was 5, Clyde, and they were able to get him. They pulled him. He was no longer of use to this family, and he passed. His body was too broken down, and it was that was rough to see. And then just today, I think it was today. They all run together in the dog rescue world, but I think it was today. His breeding partner was saved, and it looks like she's going to be okay for now. She wasn't in as bad a shape, but it's on Facebook through this gal's page, and this dog is shaking in the crate like she's so scared because they don't know. I always say, like, people hear puppy mill, and I think they think, okay, they breed the dogs. What's the problem with that? But they just don't know that they're kept in a cage with a wire bottom, and there's no human touch, and they don't go in the grass, and they're bred consistently. Like, it's really, really terrible what happens. And I think that's where social media has been so fantastic for people learning, including me. And I guess when I heard about all this, I was like, people just don't know this. They just don't. So anyway, just when you think you've heard it all when it comes to rescue or any kind of atrocity that you hear about in the world, there's something else. And you're like, it just, it just goes on and on and on. But it's just interesting you said that because you know, people just don't know. They just don't know. And a lot of things I am learning and don't know. And I think I should know this. Like, why don't I know this? So thank you for that, for bringing attention to that. It's critical. And even my best friends, including my sister, know how strongly I feel about this, and they have bought from breeders. So that's frustrating, but I'm also I'm not I try not to be an in your face type of person. I, with great humility, try to offer, you know, my information to people in a way that they understand it, but not in your face. Because at the end of the day, somebody's going to do what they're going to do. But it's been a great experience. Definitely been a great experience to be involved.
No, recently in our town here in Connecticut, we had um, a woman who had 20 or 30 different animals, um, owls and hedgehogs and parakeets and cats and ferrets and just anything you could think of she had. all these different animals, and she just wasn't able to take care of all of them. And I don't. I think in that scenario, right? Like you can tell that there's something not right. Right? She had hoarding
Yep.
tendencies.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so like this wasn't harm through maliciousness, right? Like this wasn't harm where she's like, I'm gonna go out and harm all these animals. Um, but it was just something interesting to think about. Like, cool. How do we take care of these animals? How do we find homes for them? How do we place them? Um,
Exactly.
Being on the council side, which is always something that uh, being reminded I'm the fiscal authority of the town, thinking about like, cool, what is the cost to house these different animals? And like, how long do we have this responsibility? And something that is near and dear to me, partly because Cato and Cleo, we are finally building an animal shelter in our town. Well, fingers crossed, hopefully. But to think about like, you know, in some ways, you almost never want animals in that animal shelter. Um, Yet, because of a lack of education, we always have people who will just leave their dog tied to a post or just, drop off. Uh, um, in my high school, we had a teacher who we had a reptile club. So we had 100 and something snakes in the high school and lizards.
Wow.
It was a great learning experience, but
I
I remember
bet. As long as they're all kept safe.
the teacher, someone dropped two baby alligators on his front porch where, he had a policy where no judgment, no shame. But if someone felt that they had an animal that they no longer could take care of, to bring it to his front porch, and he would find a home for it, right? A lot of the animals we would adopt them or purchase them, right? Um, uh, uh, but something was crazy to me was just like someone had baby alligators and dropped them off, and then it was the idea of like, how do we take care of them? Where do we go? Where do we place them? So I heard you kind of talk about this where we get passionate about helping people, serving people, and I guess how do you deal with trying to find placement for an animal, and how do you discern how to pass that to someone else, how to find a home?
Yeah, another great point, Justin. So I just saw in the news this week, and I wonder sometimes, is it true? Is it not true? But there was supposedly some crocodiles or alligators. I think alligators. I don't know the difference, quite frankly. I think it has to do with their head, but people take them on as pets and then they release them when they realize they get big. So in Pennsylvania here, we've got some, I guess, alligators running around somewhere. So from what I understand, they were able to capture them and they are in a safe place, wherever that is, a sanctuary of some sort. So where I am, I'm very lucky here in Pennsylvania, Montgomery County. We have right down the street. Never even knew it. Again, I learned it from, we have a Kimberton Whole Foods, which is a local organic market. And every month they pick a charity and they donate, rounding up at the register. So this is how I learned we had this wildlife center right here down the road, basically. I knew we had one, but it was in Philadelphia, which I took a injured frog there many years ago. My son was sick and I can't believe it, but it made me feel good. Like, this frog's upside down on the sidewalk, he's bleeding. What am I going to do with him? I got to take him. So anyway, to have this wildlife center close by is fantastic. So, that's not a crocodile type place, but any type of wildlife we can take there. So I feel like we're so fortunate to have that,
Mm,
because a lot of places don't have that kind of a safety net. So that is a question. What, I mean, what do you do? And it's all, it's all, it's a, it's a not for profit. So I guess it runs off donations. So, um, yeah, that's exactly right. I think a lot of the attitudes of younger people today are, well, somebody will take care of it. Well, but who? Well, who's going to be that person? So, and to back up to what you said about the shelter, that has a good connotation, I think, to a lot of people. And you and I know that that is not the place that we want animals to sit for years and years and years, and they do. I know that Kato and Cleo's mom was always upset about the conditions there, and now our shelter in Philadelphia, the Animal Care and Control Team Act, they go by. People say, "Oh, it's a terrible place, and it's this and it's that," and I've been there. And the last time I was there, I was really impressed. I did not smell one
Hey.
odor. And there's hundreds of dogs there. They euthanize daily for space.
Mhm.
People just don't understand that. You see on Facebook, and people just they go off about why this and why that. And anyway, so what I can say about ACT is the volunteers there are unbelievable. The
Mm.
way they take care of these animals, there's a small area for them to be walked. So my experience with our city shelter, and I'm not there, I've been there a few times, but I follow these long-term volunteers who have a lot of complaints. But I mean, these people, those are the heroes to me, like in the animal rescue world. Like those to go in there day in and day out and get these animals out of their cages, some of which they can't even handle. I think that that takes a lot of heart to be able to do that, knowing that that animal may not come out of there alive, but they're safe there. So I know I can go on and on and on. I'm trying not to do that.
No, no. So, well, let's transition
Sure.
and talk about, how did you come into modeling, and like what inspired you to say like, hey, I want to put myself out there and
You're amazing. The question, you're like, you really are like, wow, you're hitting chords with me, Justin. I don't, yeah, it's exciting. And I love to talk to you. And it's, why did I want to get put out there? It's interesting you say that because, I take after my father, who's a very humble man. I try to be humble. I don't need to be the center of attention. I don't need to be that person. I'm just a happily married mom I'm a stay-at-home mom. Um, been doing that for a long time. I was into modeling, I guess you could say, as a younger person, but went to modeling school, but I never worked or anything like that. It was more like the fun thing to do. So I guess it's interesting. So how did it kind of come to be? So I guess what happened was there's a gal that lives down the road from me, and she's a petite model for QVC. I don't think do you know the name QVC?
I
The,
did, I do.
okay, I figured that was something. So I know that I know that she's a petite model for she just had her second baby, but we
Mhm.
became friendly. She walks in my neighborhood, and anyway, I got to know her and her little daughter. And so when the daughter turned 1, she's like, "Hey, we're having a party. You want to come over?" And I'm like, "Sure, of course, I would love to. I would love to do that." So, I knew that she had done some modeling, so I'm just doing a little playing around on the computer and seeing if she has an agency. And I guess it's always been in the back of my head. I'm tall, I'm, you know, okay looking, I guess, whatever they want to. say, people, you should this, you should that. So long story short, Click Models has been around forever. They have offices in Philly, New York, LA, a couple places throughout the country. I should know them all, and I don't. But anyway, I sent a private message to the agent, Renee Lauren, at Philadelphia. And so that was a year ago, last year. I never heard anything. It just got me on that track because of this young lady that whose house I was going to. So I sent this Renee Lauren a message. Just was posting on Facebook for a certain type of model. You know, there's plus modeling, which I fit into that category, and I'm totally fine with that.
Right.
But anyway, I never heard anything, and I totally forgot about it, Justin. Totally forgot about it. And then this past July, I'm just doing my everyday thing, and she sends me a private message. She's like, "Hey, I never saw this. Can we do a video chat?" And we did, and she said, "I'd like you to get some pictures." And I did, and they turned out great. I was, surprised, honestly. I did a little research and I found the photographer. There's a bunch of photographers that are excellent. So Sue McDade's out of Westchester, Coatesville. Sue McDade's the photographer. Corinne Martucci is also on QVC. She has a lot of different jobs. She's a stylist. And then somebody did hair and makeup, and voila, like these pictures, I still look at them, and obviously with all that help, you're gonna have some good pictures. But being on the humble side of things, I didn't ask a lot of questions because even with you, I was like, oh my God, I'm afraid to ask, like, how do I get on here? And this is new, and I don't know how to get on the podcast. And my husband's like, well, just ask. I'm like, well, I'll figure it out. I want to figure it out. That's how I am. So I ended up getting my pictures done, like, I don't know, a couple months after I spoke to my agent. And I still didn't know at that time, like, did she hire me? Did one day, so I was like, let me just ask her. And I was like, Renee, are you just going to wait to look at my pictures to decide whether you want to hire me, or do you? She's like, no, Julie, I want to represent you anyway. I was like, wow. Like, I was just so pleasantly surprised, like that. So anyway, I was like, we were talking, and so I'm in the category of lifestyle model, which is basically anybody. It's anybody doing anything, walking a dog. It's not modeling necessarily. It's the commercials you see on TV, anything and everything that's like lifestyle modeling. So I am, feverishly sending out. It works differently than I thought, but there's everything's online, so I'm sending out. I'm auditioning, so to speak, through a website that handles the jobs. So the agent sends the jobs. I get other jobs from a casting site. And so still waiting for that one job. I have something lined up that I was telling you about through a friend. So I'm a spokesperson for her caregiving company, which that's been great too. So really this is all just kind of coming to be, so to speak. So, but to answer your question, Justin, about how putting myself out there and all that, I would say 6 years ago, I started on a journey of getting myself healthy. I've lost 30 pounds in the last 6 years. I use my Fitness Pal app. One day I heard about this, and I'm like, one day I just got on there, and it really made the difference. Like when you sit down, actually, and you'll hear people say keep a log. Well, this is so much easier on the phone, but like when you actually sit down and write down what you eat, it's like, oh my gosh, you have no idea how much you're putting into your mouth every time you sit down to eat. Like, it was
Mhm.
really a wake up call for me. So I just, I don't know. I figured, I guess my kids are older. I have the time
Mm.
to, to do this. They're self-sufficient. And I thought, well, I have nothing to lose. So I'm going to just put myself out there and, you know, see what happens. So that's where I am.
No, I think I think it's interesting and fascinating because being in politics, um, although people aren't so much worried about my aesthetics, although some are, I think it's interesting. Like, you know, it is very hard to constantly put yourself out there, right? Um,
I can't imagine for you. I can't.
and I think something else is like, being body positive, being conscientious, being kind to yourself about how you feel and appear and walk into life. Um, you know, it happens to be Tourette's Awareness Month. I happen to have Tourette's syndrome. That's why I wear the noise canceling
I
headphones.
I read that. I think that's, and I actually have OCD, so uh I understand that. I think they're kind of interconnected along the
They are.
way. And my son's friend has Tourette's, so I feel a connection with you because of that, because my OCD's been managed with medicine for the last 20 years.
They,
It saved my life, honestly. I don't, that's not something I talk about either, Justin, but in this talk with you, I think, it's not something I feel like I need to get on the world stage to talk about, but it is what people want to see. They want to see the human, and they want to see the humanity in people. And, I'm so well adjusted, I don't have any problems, and I really don't. My life is very, very blessed, but I think people need to know that we all have these issues. So, um, anxiety, OCD is an anxiety disorder. So that is something I will have the rest of my life. I will have to take medicine the rest of my life. I took myself off of that medicine a few times, and I never want to do that again. It was terrible. So I think as you get older, you just become more confident in your life. Like, it's, just get out there and live. Like, I guess being a full-time mom, I love my kids, but it was a little boring. I'm ready to kind of get out there and do something new.
no, uh, so I've been wearing, and every year now, there comes a point in the year that I'm like, oh, how long have I been wearing the headphones? And it has been now for me, um, I'm verging on 8 years, um,
Really?
which is um, talking about style and stuff. The headphones have changed. The features on them have changed throughout the years. But to your point, the confidence, right? Because there were times where I remember I used to be extremely nervous to, you know, every young person wears headphones, does
Right.
whatever, nobody thinks anything of it. But to interact and to go into certain spaces and wonder and worry, like, is someone going to ask me about this? And now, um, last year I had the blessing opportunity. Was in a case working on prison gerrymandering, where they count prisoners as voters, even though they can't vote, to draw district maps for voting that they do every decade for the census. And I happen to be one of the people in a lawsuit against the state. And we went to the circuit court Thurgood Marshall's Court in New York City. And it was an amazing experience to be used as a tool to bring about a important discussion. And here I am, like, I'm here with a throng of Yale lawyers, and we're
Yeah.
going to argue in front of uh, very prestigious judges. Um, and the security guard stopped me. He's like, "You can't come in here with the headphones." And like, it was a transition moment where it was kind of funny to me. You have all these prestigious Yale lawyers who are like, Actually, these are medical. Like he can wear his headphones. Like, no, no, no. Like, this is who he is." Or I'm
Wow.
with a friend and we are having a conversation. Um, and I happen to be the second elected official in the nation documented with Tourette's. Um, and I remember a friend, um, uh, no shame. I would use my disability Metro card when I go to New York, and I forgot it one time. And my friend opened up and he's like, "Do you know who this guy is? He's the second guy in the nation." And it was funny to watch the MTA, the train conductor go like, "Oh wow, this is pretty cool." Like, no, no, I believe, like, wow, like,
Awesome.
congratulations to you.
That's awesome.
So to your point, as we age, getting more comfortable with ourselves and how we present and how we walk in life, I definitely like there are days now where I'm like, cool, you don't know about the headphones. If I feel like explaining it, I will. If I don't, somebody will, like, at some point you'll figure it out. But to go from that, from to go to that from, oh no, I walk into a room and OCD and Tourette's and just the anxiousness of
Yep.
being in the room.
Yep.
Um, uh, I appreciate you sharing that about yourself and sharing with us. Um, I guess the next thing about modeling, um, how is it different from what you expected? Because I don't, we see ads on TV, we see things in newspapers, we see these things, but we don't really conceptualize how it works. And I think it's important in the sense that being able to see ourselves in the universe is so important because it allows us to envision things. So, like for you,
Right. Right.
how does this process work different than you thought? And then has this changed the way from interacting with this world? Has this changed the way that you look at advertisements or how they speak to you?
That's a great question. Well, it's completely different than what I expected, honestly. So I know in fact, my agent said in the olden days, pre-COVID, she was joking. So I was, we talk via email. She would say, in the olden days, pre-COVID, you people were still going on go sees. That's where you go and you meet the client and they decide whether they like you or not. Well, that stopped completely. Everything's online.
Uh,
So I got involved when that basically changed because I was saying to her because I was applying for a job and it was complicated. Uh, I think I had to attach a video. So you're doing everything via video, phone, and I'm fairly adept at all this, but this one was complicated and I had to have my husband help me with it. So I said to her when I emailed her, I was like, wow, that was a doozy sending that off. She goes, well, you should have seen it pre-COVID. It was, she's saying basically it took me a little time to figure this out, but for a job, say, of like H&M or any big store, these models would go and wait. Yeah, they'd be all the way around the block and they'd wait to see the client, and that's how things were. So I guess I didn't expect that, for instance, my agent will send me an email.
mm,
along with the other lifestyle models, and she'll say, you know, can you do this? Are you interested? Do you have time? Whatever it is, she just says, let me know. Then we would respond yes or no. And then she sends our info to the client on our behalf. Um, and I guess I expected to have more jobs before now, because I guess I just figured, oh, there's a lot of jobs out there, but
mm,
there's also a ton of competition. I'm just one person that clients are seeing from, how many different agencies.
mm,
That was a lot different than what I expected. I guess I expected the client would go to our website and say this person fits well for this job, but it doesn't work that way. And like, how do they know who Click Models Philadelphia is anyway? So yeah, it's been a learning experience for sure, and
mm.
it's great. I think the perfect time in my life, and I forget, you had asked about advertisements. You know, yeah, maybe I look at things a little bit differently in terms of seeing advertisements. I don't really watch a lot of TV. I watch like TLC at night, winding down for bed. But my friends will be like, "Did you see that commercial about the so and so?" And I'm like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." So that sounds kind of silly, I guess, but you know, it's just funny how we have a perception and then reality, which is sometimes completely different. But yeah, it's just, I think, just interesting. I guess I'm trying to say how, if you want something, this is something I'm interested in. I would love to make some extra money to support my organic food habit. That would be my first goal. It's not necessarily that I need to be on the cover of Vogue, although that'd be wonderful and that'd be awesome. But to me, it was more like, a great thing I could do to make a little extra money, or a lot of extra money, whatever the universe sees for me. But just like I said earlier about, I forget what we were talking about, but I'm confident. I'm not afraid to ask.
Mm.
All somebody can do is say no. Well, I'm not afraid to ask. So that's led me well in my life, I guess, just to ask for what you want. There's a nice way to do it, and there's a not so nice way to do it. And it's interesting, and I think my kids see that, like, it's very important to be kind to people. That's, I try to just be kind and do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. I think that's important, and it's really not that hard, and it makes people's lives a lot more pleasant to deal with a nice person, I think. So did I answer all those questions you asked me?
No, you definitely did. You know, I think this is like I see modeling and advocacy for animals actually closer together than I thought at the beginning of this, in the sense that
Neat.
um, it's about others, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but at the same time, it's about ourselves, right? Like this opportunity to care for a creature is also an opportunity to care for ourselves and show what radical love looks like, and to have that self confidence and share ourselves with others is also something where you'll flip through a magazine or something, and you see something like someone carrying a jacket, and you're like, oh, I like that jacket. Or you'll see an advertisement or a mock-up of someone walking into a building, and you're like, oh, this could be an inviting space. I think um, these things have more power than we would like to give them, and
I agree. I agree.
I think it's great that you shared that. So I guess in closing, You know, I thank you for spending time with me. I thank you for opening up yourself and talking about um, the interconnection of fashion and animals that I wouldn't have had before today. But is there anything you want to say in closing, or any? You mentioned some links, so we're gonna throw these links into the video when it casts. But is there any other organizations or any other places that we should pay attention to?
Wow, that's int- you got great questions, Justin. You know, I'm obviously pro animal welfare. You know, fur, no fur. When I was getting my photos taken, the stylist, you know, had an old fur shawl, and I was like, she's like, you know, I didn't hurt the animal. I'm like, I can't do that. Like, there's, you know, there's certain things I'm not going to do. It absolutely has to be fur free. You know, I think I feel like that could be a that may be a problem for me at some point, that I'm not going to be. First of all, I would never take a job that was for fur or anything of that matter. But you know, I think any way you're putting yourself out there and getting publicity, which I really thank you as well, because I can share this to promote
Mm,
myself and my causes, which is probably as important, if not more important, than any kind of job, you know, that I would have. Is I always feel like, oh, it'd be so great to, you know, have this celebrity and this money to be able to give the money away to all these causes that are important to me. Another wonderful organization near us is COEL, City of Elderly Love. They've saved, I think, over 1,000 elderly dogs over the last 8 years. I think it's phenomenal what they're doing. You know, I would love to send you more links at a later date. I never really thought about that. I just, you know, ACT Philadelphia, ACCT Philly, PHILLY.org, I think, or gov. Yeah, these are local organizations that mean a lot to me. So, you know, when it's in your heart, it's in your heart. And,
mm.
you know, my family thinks I'm nuts. I feed the birds. I spend a small fortune on bird food now, and I got to feed their, you know, change their water. And I love wildlife. I love nature. I'm, you know, a holistic minded type of person. And I think that's led me well in my life. Just finding peace amidst a lot of chaos. So I think it's awesome to have talked to you and meet you. And the fact that you reached out, I was more excited, I think, to talk with you. And then you were to talk with me, but you brought some things out of me that, you know, like I said, my closest friends know about the OCD, and I'm not embarrassed in any way. It's not that. It's just I feel like with the platform or the time I have, animal advocacy would be where I would want the attention uh, to, because I feel like there's a great group of people working on mental health, and that's not necessarily my strong suit. So thank you, Justin, for your time. It's been awesome.
No, thank you. Let's see. Uh, Hold on, I'm just texting Rhonda uh, to be our engineer to close us out.
Oh, and I want to say one last thing. I know we're done. Thank you again for your help with Cato and Cleo. I know you went out there and you tried to help, and we, you know, we got them free. So you were definitely influential in that in some way. I don't know. It was such a private issue, but I could sleep better at night knowing that you guys were stepping up.
Well, I'll say this last thing. Um, it was an education to get into the Twitter world of animal advocacy, and to see so many people who are passionate about conservation and protecting animals. And I think, you know, oftentimes when these issues are going on, like any issue, we feel alone while we're fighting against an institution or a system. Um, and it's nice when you know there's other people out there who care, who are thinking about what you're thinking about, and who are willing to fight that injustice. So thank y'all to y'all because you know, me going to the animal shelter and then the police being called and all the nonsense
I
around that,
cannot believe, it's crazy.
it made me feel more whole when people were like, "Oh no, that's ridiculous," and like you were doing the right thing rather than to be in a situation where it's like, "Oh, I'm doing this and people probably think I'm crazy." But to know like, "Oh no, we can all care for each other." So
I
thank
feel bad for you that you had to go through that, but obviously, it's not always going to be easy. We're going to have obstacles and, stick to our missions. And thank you, Justin. Maybe we can do this again another time. And I
that
appreciate it so much.
no problem.